How can we include flexibility in our budget so that they're actually sustainable? Thank you so much for this comment. My name is Gaby Rincon. I'm a money coach and financial strategist. I specialize in working with the first-gen BIPOC community and empowering them to live money stress-free. One of the biggest problems that I see in my community and my clients is that when we've tried to budget before, we've been too strict. And when we're too strict, we're straining too much. And so it's obviously not going to be sustainable. It has the same effect as like fad dieting, right? So you might be really good for a week, 2 weeks, but then all of a sudden you kind of binge eat. Same thing happens with your finances. And for your budget to be life-changing, it has to be sustainable, meaning that we have to be able to repeat it week after week, month after month, year after year if need be. And so that happens by creating incremental changes. Like, yes, we are going to put some guidelines around what you're spending your money on, but it's not going to be a restriction, right? The difference between a restriction and a guideline, meaning, okay, something is super strenuous, like it's hard to do, versus, all right, you got some wiggle room in here. These guidelines act kind of as like bumpers when you're bowling, so that when you throw the ball, it's like, yeah, it can kind of have some wiggle room. It has an interesting little pattern, little flow, but for sure you're not gonna kind of do a gutter ball or whatever, right? Same thing with your finances, that same principle. We want the allocated amount to be like a bumper. Now, it's going to keep you safe. It's not going to completely restrict you. So how do we actually include this in our plan? What does flexibility look like in action? Number one, do not overcomplicate something. Let's keep it as simple as possible. By this, I mean, let's not over-categorize. For most of my clients, most of our community, like the fact is that less is more. So kind of bunch our categories together as opposed to having, oh, every 3 months I spend this much on my hair, then every 2 months I go shopping. That can get really overwhelming really quickly. Two, in your plan, include something like a slush fund, like it's always something fun, like a flexible fund, right? And that becomes the category because 1 month it might be, I don't know, you decide to go on a spur of the moment trip. 1 month it might be, oh, surprise, I need new tires. But including some kind of a plan for that variability, for that flexibility, having the option to partake in certain things will be really helpful. And three, include a buffer amount. That does mean most of us will start out too strong. We'll come in way too intensely, too strict, aka not sustainable. So if you're used to spending $400 on X category, we can't all of a sudden be like, no worries, I'm gonna cut it in half. It's only gonna be $200 this month. No, homie, that's not realistic. What we see is a change of about 10 to 20% seems to be realistic, sustainable for most people. Our previous category of X for $400 is gonna change 15% down to now $340. That amount is something we can probably adhere to, and you can add a tiny little bit of a buffer around it to $350 as a just in case. Good to know if you're somebody who's like, oh, but you said that I could use my buffer, so I'm just gonna do it. Don't even plan this part, just stick to the 15% difference. It's also like we have to know who we are because this is all about that behavior, that mindset. What fits, what works for you and your life. I hope this helps, and as always, for customized strategies that will work for you and ensure your financial success, book a consultation. I'd love to work with you.